So good morning again. How are you? You okay? Okay, well. So today I'm going to talk about proposal writing. And also I'm going to show you the template of the European Commission for Horizon Europe projects. And we will see how to fill in every single section of the template. So actually, before starting to write your proposal, you have to define the proposal structure. So the proposal structure is like the starting point of your proposal. It's like, can be one-page proposal, can be a diagram. But what is important is that it's like a summary, like an overview in one page, right? With all the critical and important element of your proposal, all the concept, the important concept of your proposal. So what are these concepts? So in order to find them out, we can ask yourself some question. First of all, you have to define your research question. What do you want to do in your proposal? Which is the base, of course. As I said yesterday, the idea comes before everything else. Then you have to, well, depends here what kind of call you are applying for. So if you remember yesterday, we talked about top-down and bottom-up approaches in different type of calls. So if the call is bottom-up, it's up to you to define the challenge, right? So you have to define what's the problem there, and it should be big enough, it should be interesting enough, it should be urgent enough for the Commission to bother. If it is a top-down, the challenge normally is already defined, at least the big challenge. But within the big challenge, you find the small challenge that your proposal deal with. So for example, microplastic in water, you can say, okay, microplastic in water in the Mediterranean area, in the sea, in the lake, etc. So you define the challenge. Next, what are the available solutions? So you have to dedicate some time to see what other people are doing in the field of research you are interested in, right? Why? Because nobody's going to give you money if someone else has already done what you want to do, of course. So you have to be updated. And especially you have to describe what the other people haven't done yet, or they have done incorrectly or not completely. So you have to find the gap. And once you find the gap, you have to fill it. So you have to propose your solution. You have to tell the Commission that you have an answer to the question, to the problem. Right. Then, of course, you have to define your results. And especially who wants them. If nobody wants your result, your proposal is useless. And it's up to you to find people that need your result, right? So this is I call them the lead users, which is, it's not exactly the Commission terminology, but in other contexts, they are called lead users. And they are the people that want your result. They need your result. And it's up to you to find them, right? So you cannot just say, okay, I'm going to produce, I'm going to have this new technology, and that's it. Now you have to say who's gonna use this technology, who wants this technology. Next, how will you deliver your results to the lead users? So once you find them, it's also your responsibility to communicate to them the result of your project. This is dissemination, and this is the reason why dissemination in the template is under impact, because it's a way to maximize the impact. And it's up to you to do that. It's your responsibility. You have to find them, convince them, and promote your result to the lead users. What resources you need? So you have to define, of course, you need money, right? But exactly for what? So you have to define what kind of personnel you need, how many man-months, consumables, whatever. So you have to define the resources that you need to carry out your research. How will the work be done? So do you need partners? What kind of partners you need? who's going to work in your consortium, etc. So if you are able to answer all these questions in 10, 15 minutes, this is fine. You have your proposal, you have the proposal basically in a nutshell. But if you are not able to answer these questions extensively and satisfactorily, it means that your proposal is still green and is not ready to be put on paper, right? What's next? Well, basically next you have to organize this kind of chaotic chaos, creativity, creative chaos in something more structured. And especially you have to translate all this concept in the lexicon of the European Commission. And you have to talk about project state of the art and objectives, project methodology, project results and maturity level. We're going to see all this throughout the presentation. Project outcomes, project impact and dissemination, project action and implementation, right? So basically it's a little bit like transforming a structure like this, which is very creative, very nice, a lot of colors, in something like this. So linear, straightforward, easy for the evaluators to read and to understand. Any questions so far? Right, so I go on. If you have any question, you just interrupt me. Right, so here I just want to show you some basic concepts. I don't want to enter in the European Union terminology lexicon because it's a little bit complicated, but just to show you some basic concepts that are very important to understand, especially the impact part of the proposal. Right, so this graphic doesn't belong to me. So here at the bottom, you can see the person that created this diagram, which is Sean McCarthy. And he is an expert in proposal writing. It's very famous, he's Irish. And actually, if you are interested in one-page proposal, so the structure of the proposal, in YouTube, there is a very interesting tutorial. And if you type Sean McCarthy one-page proposal, you can find it. It's 15 minutes, and it's interesting. Right, so here we have the whole process from the inputs. So you need inputs for your proposal. You need money, resources, knowledge, of course. Knowledge is also important input. Then you have project activities, of course. So here, for example, is identify polymer, develop sensor, etc. Then you have the research outputs, which are the results, right? Prototype of low-cost sensor to measure hydrocarbons, right? And some performance data. This is what you have at the end of the project. These are your results, right? So if the project finishes here and nothing else is done, it's useless. So you need someone that comes after the project, right? You need lead users. They take the result of your proposal, of your project, process them, and produce what is called the short-term impact. They produce the outcomes. So in this case, the lead users are industries that test your prototype in an industrially relevant environment, and they do all the process of put it on the market. And then you have a new infrared sensor on the market. And this is the short-term impact, right? Then we have the long-term impact, and this is for the society as a whole. It's for citizens, so in this case, a better quality of water. It can be for the industries, for the economics. For example, here we have a reduced cost of the monitoring measures. So this is the impact for the long-term, for the society, the long-term impact. Any question? Okay, so now I'm gonna start to talk about the proposal template. So the proposal template, I don't know if you have some experience, if you have looked sometimes at the proposal template, well, someone say yes. So it's divided in two parts. So we have a part A, which are the online forms, and this basically is all the information about the partners. So who are the partners, addresses, etc. So this is the part that you are not so interested in. And then we have the part B, which is the narrative, which is the proposal. So here you can see all the sections. There is a cover page, and then we have 3 sections: excellence, impact, and implementation. And then these are other 2 parts that are not compulsory that I have added, and I think they are useful. So we're going to see all of these parts in sequence. So let's start with the executive summary. So the executive summary is not like an abstract. It's not like a summary. It's like a summary, okay, but it's like an overview of the most important concept of your proposal. And normally this is written for people that don't have time to read large documents and that they have to take a decision about the document. So in your case, the decision for the evaluators, when they read the executive summary, is whether to read your proposal with interest or not. So it's to capture their attention. It shouldn't be very long. It should be 2 or 3 paragraphs, so it doesn't take much space, but it's very useful. Because first of all, they understand from the very beginning what your proposal is about. And you have to understand, well, you, Yelena was evaluators, and you can testify about that. But evaluators have a lot of proposal, and they are tired, fed up, so they want to know immediately what your proposal is about. And then, of course, first impression counts, right? Right, so here there are some tips how to write an executive summary. So basically, as you can see, is the same that we talked about when we talked about the structure of the proposal. So are the key things of your proposal, but you have to present them in a sexy way, right, to capture the attention. So there is a problem, and it's big, and it's urgent, so we have to tackle it immediately. So this is like a solution for this problem has been waiting for a long time. So there are people out there that are waiting for this solution that you are proposing, of course. So you have to define who are. No one so far has found anything to solve the problem, to tackle the challenge. And by chance, you have the right solution. So you present your solution, you know, in the most complete and interesting way. So try to be concise, but you have to describe a little bit what you are doing in your proposal. You cannot do it alone. You need partners. So you present very, very, very briefly your partners. It's not necessary to mention them, especially now, because now we have the blind evaluation, so you cannot mention any partner, but just telling whether they are research performer, innovators, small medium enterprise, whatever. So you need the grant to for the action. So you have to describe a little bit the action, and then you have to describe what the impact would be, what the benefit for the lead user and the society as a whole. Right. So the first section is excellence. So so here is taken from the template. So this is what the template, and is a summary of the instructions that you have in the template. So objectives and ambitions. So you have to define your objectives. They should be pertinent to the work programs. Remember, if you remember, is that we said that your idea, your proposal should match the call as much as possible. And your objectives should be measurable, verifiable, realistically achievable. So it's what they say, SMART, right? Specific, measurable, assignable, realistic, and time-related. So they should be SMART. And you have to use a key performance indicator. So key performance indicator are means to measure and evaluate your impact. And the Commission wants you to describe key performance indicators. They are precise, they are significant, and as much as possible numeric, right? So they want facts and figures. And I know that it's difficult sometimes to indicate your impact in numbers. I know that sometimes, especially depending on the field of research, but sometimes a little bit difficult. But you have to try and to be as much realistic as possible. Nobody is going to come and measure your impact. So if one of the performance indicator is how many people you will cure with a new medicine, or the percentage of reduction of CO2, nobody's going to come after the project to measure if this has been done. But the evaluator was to see something realistic, something that makes sense, right? So how your project goes beyond the state of the art. So we talked about that. So you have to find what the other people have done and find the gap. And you have to use technology readiness level when possible. So yesterday we saw a little bit what it is. So it's basically a means to measure the maturity of a project, and start from 0, which is the idea, to number 9, I think, which is basically the technology ready for the market. And Horizon Europe finance project until level 7. So then it's something that goes beyond. There are other programs. Horizon Europe, I mean, the challenge, right? So there are other programs in Horizon Europe which can fund this kind of technology level, the more mature. So we have the Pathfinder and but there are other programs. Right, methodology. Methodology, you have to define the concepts, models, and assumptions, and you should relate them with the objectives, right? You have to indicate the challenges and how to overcome them. So you should have a contingency plan. Interdisciplinarity is very, very important, right? This is something that will be commissioned starting from Horizon 2020. They started to indicate the need of interdisciplinarity, which is also related a little bit with the need of partners, geographically, but also interdisciplinarity. Social sciences and humanities, this basically is a group of disciplines that includes, for example, sociology, anthropology, economics. And starting from Horizon 2020, the Commission wants to include some of these sciences because they want you to have a global, holistic approach to society. Is to take into account the social differences, the cultural differences. So this is very important. Gender dimension, which is also very important. And we will see when we talk about evaluation, I will tell you why they are so important. And open science. So you cannot read very well, but open science is another point that you have to describe. So science should be open and available to everybody. Any question? Right, so I go on. Right, impact. Impact, well, we saw a little bit what impact is about. So contribution of project results toward the outcomes, medium term, and wider impacts, long term. Later, we will see the pathway toward impact. So, as I said, you have to indicate the measure to maximize the impact, which means how you will disseminate your result. So here you see, so maybe you cannot read very well, but this is the pathway to impact. This is a table that you have to fill in the proposal, right? So basically is what we have already seen in the first graphic that I showed you. So you have specific needs. Specific needs are the needs of the lead users. So you are preparing a proposal because you know that there are someone out there that has specific needs, and you have to indicate what they are, what needs you are going to meet. The needs, of course, is of the target group, and that which is the column number 4. So you have to define the lead user, the target group, and then you have to describe your expected results, what you will have at the end of the project, the measure to promote your results by the lead users, and then the outcomes, what the lead user will do with your results and how they will produce something important for their group, right, for them. And then for the bigger, for the wider society, the long-term impact for society, for science, for everything. Right. So here I just want to spend a couple of words about communication, dissemination, exploitation, because sometimes there is a little bit of confusion. So communication basically means to inform the society about what you are doing with your project. So the European Commission wants you to tell the citizens how you spend public money, right? So communication is about everything about the project. So you reach out society, you might organize events in the school, you might engage people during some events like the researchers' night, all these kind of things. Dissemination is only about results, right? And it's only for the people that will use your result. So the lead users, right? So you have to describe what you will do. Well, it would be much better if you know some lead users before writing your proposal. You don't have to mention them, but if you know who the lead users are, if you have met them, you know how to reach them, right? Could be, I don't know, the public sector, could be industries, right? Exploitation is something that normally is not up to you. Exploitation normally is up to the lead users. And it means to use the results and produce something that has an impact in the sector. Right. All right. Quality and efficiency of implementation. Implementation means that you have to describe in detail how the project will be implemented. And this means describing the actions, describing the timeline, describing all the elements of your project, so the deliverables, the milestones, etc. You have to divide, to break down your project in smaller elements, which are called work packages, right? So you have to prepare a work plan. You have to describe how each work package will be implemented in a timeline, which is the Gantt chart. The PERT chart is a chart that shows the relations between the different work packages, and then all the tables. So list of work packages, deliverables, milestones, and then of course you have to tell the founder what kind of resources you will use. So person months, if you need some contracting, all these kind of things. Capacity of participant and consortium as a whole. This is very important to convince the evaluator that you need exactly these partners. So yesterday I said that partners should be someone that you know. But of course, if they are your friends, fantastic, but you have to justify that they are necessary. So you have to demonstrate that they have something that nobody else can give to the project. So interdisciplinarity, they cover all the needs of the project, and they have a valid role in your proposal. Right, so here, so basically we have seen all the three sections of the proposal. So now we can see here what the evaluators want you to write. This is taken from the template that the evaluators have when they have to evaluate your proposal. So they have guidelines, and this is taken from that document. So the proposal must be in scope of the work program. What we said, the idea should match the goal. You have to demonstrate that your idea is ambitious and goes beyond the state of the art. As I said, nobody's going to give you money if you don't give something that is innovative, original, and nobody else has done before. And this is under the excellent part. The second element of the excellent part is your methodology. And you have to take into account interdisciplinarity, gender dimension, open science, and not significantly harm to the environment. The impact, well, now we are repeating a little bit the same concept. You should contribute to the outcomes and impacts for the big society, the pathway to the impact, as we have seen. And you have to indicate the measure to maximize the impact, so dissemination. And then implementation is quality of the activities that you need to carry out the project. Right, so this is taken from a real project. So this is the proposal evaluator evaluation form, right? So I don't know how many of you have seen the evaluation summary. If you have presented a proposal, the result is this, you receive this. So there is a section for each section of the proposal, of course, and this is taken from a real proposal. So I've highlighted the part that the evaluators consider as excellent or good in green, and the part that they are so-and-so in red. So what did they like? They like the objectives clear, specific, realistic, achievable, and measurable, right? And then also that they were indicators that demonstrate and gave kind of reassurance that at the end of the project, there is a measure to quantify how much your impact have contributed to society. In red, we have the state of the art, which lacks sufficient evidence, including reference to pertinent publication. So here is really up to you to do some research and see what other people are doing. This is very important because then the evaluators consider this part. The background knowledge that justified the objectives is not well supported. It is another shortcoming. They liked that the technology, the state of the art of the technology is well described, but it's not sufficiently clear how the project outputs will go beyond the current knowledge. Well, other things that they didn't like, some lack of documentation, some lack of information, interdisciplinarity has been considered to be good. Gender dimension is well understood and well addressed. Sometimes, gender issues are like, okay, I'm going to write something, 2 words, I'm going to copy from another project. No, it has to be focused on the proposal. And in open science, the approach for implementing open science is convincing, but some data is not available, so they didn't like very much. So the score was 3.5 out of 5, right? Which is not fantastic. Right, so let's see the impact. The impact, more or less everything fine. So the pathway was well described, credible, logical, plain, and specific. They didn't like the fact that they are not clear description of the intergovernmental collaboration. So this is a kind of shortcoming, but at the end, the score is quite good, 4.5. And here we have the implementation. Implementation is everything green. So it's well described, it's realistic, it's convincing. So sometimes researchers think that the excellence and impact part as the most important one. So they start to write the excellent part, then the impact part. Implementation is like, okay, I'll just leave it for the last 2 days. And it's a mistake because here, for example, we have 5, and this is the reason why the project had been funded. So 13 is up the threshold, and so the proposal has been funded because the 5 points of the implementation, gave a little bit more of points for the project to be funded. Any questions? Okay, so this is the last part, and it's like, the last comment from you. And this is just like a paragraph, 2 lines. And the thing for me is useful. So it's like, okay, you have already talked about facts and figures. So you've demonstrated that your onions, as they say, so you know what to do. This is something personal. So you have to highlight what is really unique about your core idea. And it's like your passion, your really, you know, you want to convince that is really important. What is the core idea? Why is so important? Highlight the major benefits. Be honest. Don't promise something that you cannot give, you can deliver. And yeah, show your passion and ambition. This, I think, is especially important for individual fellowships and individual grants, because it's only you. For collaborative project, might be useful as a consortium as a whole, but for Marie Curie, something like this, I think this note is very important. So, evaluation process. When your proposal arrives to Brussels, basically there are 3 experts that evaluate your proposal individually, right? They write an evaluation report, individual evaluation report, and then they get together, right? They discuss, they fight, I suppose, I don't know. But they have to reach a consensus, right? So they have to agree on a common position, and then they have to write at the end a consensus report. And then your proposal goes to a panel review, and the panel review, they are the same people that were in the consensus group, but maybe you might have some external experts, and here is where the points are decided, right? The points, the score are decided. And something very important, right? Because at some time they have to get together and discuss about your proposal. So if there is one evaluator that is convinced about your proposal, that likes your proposal, you have to help him. You have to help him to defend your proposal, right? So you have to give him clear information so that he can defend your proposal in front of the other people. Right, so this is the last remarks about proposal writing. As I said yesterday, you have to address all funders' research priority. Something that I forgot, sorry. Something very important that I forgot. So here in the panel review, they also, what the panel has to do is also to prepare the ranking list, right? And they have to prioritize the proposal. They have the same score. So if two proposals have the same score, what do they have to do? They have to follow the indication of the European Commission, and the proposal that has addressed aspect of the call, then the other proposal haven't addressed, goes up. Right, so you have to read very carefully the call to address all the requirements of the call. And also goes up the proposal that covered gender issues, that covered interdisciplinarity, and other little things that someone think this is not so important. They are important, right? Because it can push the proposal one, up in front of the other proposal. Right. So last remarks. As I said, well, this is something that I talked about a lot yesterday. So you have to match all the requirements of the call and read all the requirements, because we have just seen that is very important. So perfect match, should be a perfect match. Present a clear, with structure, concise, simply written. Don't complicate yourself. Keep it as simple as possible. So someone said that if you cannot explain it simply enough, it means that you didn't understand yourself. So being simple doesn't mean that you don't understand or your science is simple. So big things explained in a simple way is like being great, right? Provide evidence of your claims with facts and figures. So as much as possible, indicates things with numbers and facts and figure. So don't expect the evaluators to trust you. They trust God, but you are not God. So you have to bring something for the evaluators to be convinced that you are doing what you say you are doing. And be coherent, right? So revise all your proposal, especially the implementation part, to be sure that you don't deliver something a month 13 in a point and a month 9 in another. So this is a little bit time consuming, but it's very important. So start to be coherent and match the different end of the bridge. And that's it. So if you have any question, or if you want to comment something, or you have something to add. Sure.
And I understood all the proposal. It's good to include it whenever the research directions.
Okay.
And then, well,
Yeah.
yeah, and what should probably think we should have it here, putting most of the medical research here. What should be addressed in that part, in your opinion?
In which part? Sorry, can you repeat?
Social and.
Oh, so okay. So okay. Well, basically, it was the question that Maite made this morning. So how will the public react? So it's the impact for the big society. So normally, I mean, it depends on the call. Sometimes in the call is indicated that you must have someone that is expert in these disciplines, and you should have a partner or someone within an institution, a partner institution that is expert in these disciplines. Or if it just, you might have someone that collaborate for a few months. Also, you can have an advisory board with someone expert in these disciplines. And they have to assess how to deal with that part. So, but normally it's like, taking into account all the different structure of the society, the layers of society and culture. So not only gender, consider as gender and not sex, but unemployment, I don't know. So different element of the society and the culture, also the culture. So if they are immigrants, these kind of things. In all proposal, there is this part because all proposal have to at some point be integrated in society. It depends on the call. It might be enough unless the call tells you specifically that you have to address, especially.
Thank you, Laura, for your presentation. Really excellent, clear, and I'm glad that we have chance to use it to share with our research community.
Sure.
I have one practical question. What would be your advice, especially for younger researchers who are writing proposals for the first time? What resources to use and how to address legal, gender, ethical issues, because those are this part of proposals which are less than the big part. This is something that might be a little bit hard with their main field of president. Does your office offer this kind of support, or how do you advise?
Well, very much depends on the kind of research. So there's research where you don't have much ethical issues. For example, for us, the ethical issues that is always there is environmental. So, for example, if your lab produce something that might damage the environment, or if you have all the safety measure in the lab to protect your researchers, this is standard. But then if you go a little bit more in detail, it depends on the research. So the researcher should know, and of course, the project office, if it doesn't know, should search and see what are the ethical issues in every single, like, for example, if you deal with animals, this a little bit, yeah. But the standard for us, for example, at IGRA, I always recommend to include environmental for, safety, and in the lab, if you arm the environment with some, yeah, with your research, I mean, with your with implementation, the use of some chemicals or this kind of things, if there is an impact on the environment, all these things is standard. And then, of course, it depends on the project.
And
gender issues. Okay, so gender issues here, we have to divide between gender equality and gender balance. Okay, so in this is something that you can address until a center point. So they say try to engage women, but of course you cannot engage women just because they are women. So if you're a consortium, there are not enough women. I mean, it would be stupid just to, you know, I don't like this kind of things. Some people do that, but it's not convincing. So what you can say, if you don't have gender balance, for example, you can say that you will try to employ more female than male, or at least that you will have equality selection procedure for women and men. And now it is compulsory to have a gender equality plan. And there are standard recommendation. So you must have a policy that is favorable for women, for maternity, these kind of things. And this is one thing. The other thing is gender in research. This is something that the researchers should a little bit study and research. The thing is, research, whatever kind of research, can have a different impact for men and women. So talking about women that might be pregnant, culturally speaking, maybe women don't have access to certain things, or they have different habits. So they always differences between men and women. So you have to describe how your project will impact differently for women and men. And this is something that you have to think about. Maybe you talk with your colleagues, you do some research, basically. This is very important because if you have a risk, right, and might happen, right, you have to tell the evaluator how you will, first of all, prevent some risk, right, and then if something happens, how you will correct this, and that you have a plan B, right, to implement, to be sure that everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. And it's up to you, it's up to the researcher, based on the research that he does. I mean, I cannot give you any example because it depends on the research. You have to think about what might happen and think, okay, if this happened, I can do that. So convincing the evaluator that if something happens, you have a plan B. Right? No, sure. Now there are some researchers that include where if a pandemic, so, well, it's a little bit exaggerated, no? So let's hope there will not be another pandemic. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, for me, the most hardest thing to write the proposal, honestly. So I always try to put a number on this.
Right.
So I know that not all KPI could be a number, but could you give some good examples of KPI which are not quantitative, and how then you follow, how you show that you are reaching this KPI if you don't have quantitative number?
It's difficult. I mean, the commission wants to have indicators, right? But for me, when I read the proposal and I read, okay, we're going to reduce the CO emission by 30%, then I think, who's going to come and measure that? So it's just an estimate. So what you can control, try to be as specific as possible. So if you can control, for example, the number of lead users that you can contact, so you can say, okay, I'm going to contact 30 industries, or, you know, can produce 3 prototypes. This is something that regards the result and the short-term impact. This is something that you might control more. But when we are talking about the long-term impact, it's difficult. It's difficult. But they want you to show that you know what you're talking about. And if you know, the evaluators know. It's easier. Yeah, it's easier. And then for the society, it's just an estimate. It's an
We
estimate.
have to show that you're achieving it.
No. If my colleagues from investigators might help me, I cannot give you an example. I don't know if anyone can say something, but no.
And can I another one question regarding the outcomes? So they are in most cases defined in the project call, especially for this bottom down. So you usually have 5 to 10 outcomes. Do you need to achieve all of them in the call?
It depends on the call. It depends on the call. Normally, the outcomes are very generic. So it's up to you to define what exactly you will produce. And yeah, it depends on the proposal. Sometimes they say you have to address all the outcomes. Sometimes they say you have to address 2 or 3. It depends on the proposal.
But this, if they say that you find 3 and it is not a big shortcut if you focus on the lower number of outcomes.
It depends. It depends. If you have a brilliant idea and addressing one outcome, you really contribute and give the commission what they want, and it's written in the call. So everything is written in the call. Don't think that it's something that, you know, they get up in the morning and there's suddenly they have another requirement. No, it's all written in the call. So you should know the call by heart. You have to read it and reread it. And the call by call, I mean not only the topic, all, yeah, the destinations and this I don't have now to show you, but you know the different part of the call. So the destination, the topic, if you can, the overall program will be fine. So read as much as possible because it's all there. It's all there.
I just want to be from these 10 outcomes, say you must reach 5 and 5
one?
to 8, and I reached 5 outcomes. The other proposal reached 8. So they get better marks.
They might reach, I mean, not in a convincing way. So if they have instruction that 5 is enough, they cannot consider another proposal as better because they address 8. No, it doesn't work this way. This will not be fair.
And regarding the, do you help your researchers to actually read their proposals, give them advice, and say this is not clearly not written or this is not convincing, and you need to work on this?
Well, I try to read the proposal as much as possible. The Marie Curie because they are easier and there are less science in it. That where there are parts for the science, but there are parts that are not only science. That like here, maybe the national contact point can help you. So we have very good national contact points. And if you send a draft proposal ahead of time, not the last minute, right? Normally they can go through and say, okay, they know, you know, what is behind the scene, and they know that this might be more interesting than another thing. So they can give you some advice. As for the science,
Impact. Reach requirements from the call. Do you check this for your
yeah, if they ask me ahead of time, yes. If I have time, I do that, yeah. Yeah, as much as possible, I do that, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so thank you for your attention.